In this video, we'll talk about how to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So remember, a quadratic equation is one of this type, where a, b, and c are constants. So here's a little example. 2x squared plus 3x minus 7 equals 0. That is a quadratic equation. Now, we've seen we can solve equations of this type via factoring, but sometimes you have something where it's just like a big pain to factor, or you try to factor and you get totally stuck. So if that's the case, then you can always try using this thing called the quadratic formula. So here's the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula basically says that if you have a quadratic equation in this form, then the solutions to it are actually given by this formula here, where b, a, and c are the coefficients of the x squared term, the x term, and then like the constant term in the quadratic equation that you start with. So we're going to look at an example. I'm going to show you guys how you use this formula. So we'll find all solutions to 4x squared plus 3x minus 6 equals 0, and we're going to round our answers to 2 decimal places. Okay, so our equation is 4x squared plus 3x minus 6 equals 0. Now, in order to use the quadratic formula to find the solutions here, we need to first identify what a, b, and c are. So I'm going to first identify a, b, and c. In other words, I need to look at this and determine what is a, what is b, and what is c. So here we have a is 4, b is 3, and c is negative 6. Now, the equation I'm looking at here, it's already in like the correct order. In other words, I already have it written in as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If your equation was not in this order, you would have to kind of like rearrange it using algebra until it had the x squared term first, then the x term, and then the constant term, and then equals 0. And if it wasn't like that, you would rearrange it. Okay, now the quadratic formula says that our solutions are going to be given by this equation. X is equal to opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a. And so what I can do is, to find the solutions, I can actually stick into this equation, I can stick b, a, and c in each of these spots here. So I'm going to replace b with 3. So I'm going to write 3 in the b spot. And I'm going to do that everywhere I see a b. Then what I'm going to do is, instead of a, I'm going to write 4. So I'm going to write minus 4 times 4. And then instead of c, I'm going to write negative 6. So I'm going to put times negative 6 in here. And then I'm going to divide the entire thing by 2 times a, which we have determined is 4. And this is going to give us some solutions to the equation. So the most common mistake I see people making here is, there's 2 actually. One of them is just accidentally replacing one of these letters with the wrong thing. So like in the C spot, I need to make sure I put negative 6 and not something else like 4 or 3. And then the other mistake I see people making is not doing this division line all the way. So it's like every single thing on the top, like the whole entire thing, has to be divided by the thing on the bottom here. So extend this line all the way. Okay, from here we need to simplify. So I always start by simplifying inside the radical. So I'm going to write plus or minus. I'm going to simplify everything in the radical. So I'm going to do 3 times 3. That's 3 squared. So if I do that, I get 9. And then I'm going to do 4 times 4 times negative 6. So that gives us minus 4 times 4 times negative 6 is minus 96. So you can use a calculator for that if you want. And then 2 times 4 in the denominator, that's actually just 8. Okay, now I have minus and negative here. So minus and double negative turns into a positive. So this becomes square root of 9 plus 96. And then I can do 9 plus 96 to get 105. Okay, now where do I go from here? I actually have two answers here. So the plus or minus means that we have like two different answers. One of the answers is x is equal to -3 plus square root of 105 over 8. And then the other answer is x equals -3 minus square root of 1 over 5 plus 8. So if you guys were wondering what the plus or minus means, it essentially means we have two answers. One of them where there's a plus here, and then another one where there's a minus here. So you have two answers. Now we can leave this as is, which would be called an exact answer. And if you can simplify the radical, you can go ahead and try to do that. Or we can type this into a calculator to find a rounded answer. So if you take your calculator out and type in -3 plus square root of 1 over 5 divided by 8, you would want to be careful and put a parentheses around this whole thing. So I would type into my calculator parentheses -3 plus square root of 105 or 5, parentheses closed, and then divide by 8. And if you don't put the parentheses around the top stuff, it's only going to divide the square root of 1 over 5 divided by 8, but it's not going to do the -3 over 8, which is important. So put this into your calculator and round to 2 decimal places, and you should end up getting the following: 0.91 for the first one, or x is equal to -1.66. So that's rounded to 2 decimal places. I'm putting this squiggly equal sign, and that means like that I've rounded, or it's an approximate answer. So these are our two answers rounded to 2 decimal places.